News Bulletin from Power 102 Digital.
It is Monday, the 11th of March, 2024. Good morning, Trinidad and Tobago. This is news to 6 a.m. on News Power Digital. Accolades continue for Miss World TNT Asha Abrahams as both Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley and Opposition Leader Kamla Persad-Bissessar have congratulated Abrahams for her performance at the Miss World 2024 competition over the weekend. At the prestigious event held in India, Abrahams won the title of Miss World America and the Caribbean and came in fourth overall. Dr. Rowley said via a social media update, Abrahams represented his country with class and pride and poise. The leader of the opposition said Abrahams' achievement is one of the best things to happen to TNT in a long while. We celebrate you and thank you for inspiring us all, especially the young people of the country, to be a voice, an advocate, and an example to others to follow. Asha Abrahams represented the country well at the event, and from the very start captured the hearts of Trinbagonians at the start of her reign. Kristina Podiskova of the Czech Republic was announced Miss World 2024 of the 112 contestants. The fallout from the Strategic Services Agency shakeup continued as police officers from the Interagency Task Force over the weekend executed a search warrant at the Arima residence of a pastor who once worked as an advisor to the SSA. The TTPS officers visited the home of the pastor around 7:30 a.m. Saturday and executed a search warrant on the premises. No one was detained during the search, which took about 5.5 hours, ending just after 1:30 p.m. on Saturday. Investigators said when they arrived on the compound, a man wearing what appeared to be a Rasta wig seemed to be about to leave the premises. The officer recognized the man and he was asked to remain in the premises for a search. The Office of the Prime Minister announced a change in the leadership of the SSA in a statement last Sunday, March 3rd. The current head of the SSA, Major Roger Best, has been sent on administrative leave. The National Security Council recommended to the Cabinet that the head of the SSA be replaced immediately with new leadership. Former Ambassador, retired Brigadier Anthony Philip Spencer, on the instruction of the Prime Minister, returned from Washington, D.C. to take up the role. Philip Spencer is currently engaged in initiating an extensive review of all personnel, equipment, and processes within the SSA. A report of a kidnapping and assault of an 11-year-old girl is being investigated by police. The incident was reported around 7:30 a.m. Friday in McBean Village in Couva. The child told investigators she was in the yard of her home when she observed a group of men approaching her. One of the suspects allegedly covered the victim's face with a heavy cloth, while the others placed her in a vehicle which was parked nearby. The victim then fell unconscious and awoke sometime after in a room, blindfolded and chained to a bed. The young girl was then physically and sexually assaulted by the four robbers. Investigations continue. On Sunday, a trade mission made up of private and public sector companies left Trinidad and Tobago for Ghana. The TNT Manufacturers Association says Ghana was chosen as a market for opportunity to the business community following His Royal Majesty's visit, the King of Ashanti in Ghana, and delegation visited in Trinidad and Tobago in August of 2023. During the trip, several high-level meetings took place between the CEOs of both Ghana Investment Promotion Center, Ghana Export Promotion Authority, and the TTMA. The trade mission is being led by Minister of Trade and Industry, Paula Gopi-Schoon. The U.S. Embassy says it has airlifted non-essential embassy staff from Haiti as the country spirals further into gang violence. The Americans have also boosted security at their mission at the capital, Port-au-Prince. It follows attack by gangs on the airport, police stations, and prisons earlier last week. They're pushing for Haitian Prime Minister Ariel Henry's removal. And finally, Oppenheimer, a solemn 3-hour biopic that became an unlikely billion-dollar box office sensation, was crowned Best Picture at the 96th Academy Award that doubled as a coronation for director Christopher Nolan. After passing over arguably Hollywood's foremost big screen auteur for years, the Oscars made up for lost time by heaping 7 awards on Nolan's blockbuster biopic, including Best Actor for Cillian Murphy, Best Supporting Actor for Robert Downey Jr., and Best Director for Christopher Nolan. And that is news to 6 a.m. right here on News Power Digital. We'll have major news coming your way at 7 a.m. Good morning.
Up to date and credible. Power 102 Digital.
On this 11th day of March 2024. Good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us on the Power Breakfast Show on Power 102 Digital. We have the full cast in. You just heard from Super Paul. That's Paul Richards. We'll hear from Wendell Stephen, Richard Ragoobarsingh. We got Ruben. Shane is on R&R. My name is Steve Khan. It is 24 degrees at Piarco International Airport, 23 at Crown Point in our beautiful sister Isle of Tobago. And let's see, I got one accident to tell you about. It is on the Churchill-Roosevelt Highway westbound by Valsaine. All right, so take note of that. Apart from that, it's not too bad at this time, heavier from Orange Grove towards Uwe. All right. So there you go. Let's see. Any more accidents? Anything to tell you about? It's a bit heavy going to Chase Village, and from Charlieville, it's a bit busy as well. All right. Of course, let me say good morning. Good out to you, Paul Richards. What's happening?
Good morning, Steve. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning to you, my friend. How was your weekend?
It was very productive.
Oh, very good. Very good.
The country had a good weekend.
Yeah.
I think we'd like to congratulate from the onset Ashley Abrams, who ended up top 4 in Miss World in India, and also was crowned Queen of the Americas and the Caribbean. I think she did very, very well. She really lifted the country's spirits in the last couple of weeks. Became a very, very popular candidate at Miss World. Miss Czech Republic eventually won the competition, but I think Ashley Abrams did us very, very proudly and represented us very well. She also was congratulated by the Prime Minister and the opposition leader over the weekend. So congratulations to her. She now has some obligations to fulfill as being crowned Queen of the Americas and the Caribbean, and also being in the top 4. Good morning, Wendell.
Hi, good morning, Paul. Good morning, Steve. Good morning, Richard. And good morning, Trinidad and Tobago and listeners and viewers all over. Special good morning to Rena and Carol for reaching out to me early this morning. All right. I didn't get a chance to respond, but good morning.
All right. Got some messages here on our message board via YouTube and Facebook. Let's say good morning. Good out to DJ Ray out in Tampa, Oliver Man Warren, Sasha out in London, Marcia Rock out in Orlando, Garcilia in Valencia, Brenda Isaac, good morning, Wayne B in Covington, Georgia, Anthony Tinto in Ontario, Canada, Mo Gaines out in Aruca, good morning, DP, morning to you, Doreen, Rena Boudou Jennings out in Pedia Valley, Gloria Gray in South Oropouche, and she's saying, good morning, gentlemen, from New Jersey, and to hubby Andrew Sedeno in South Oropouche. Wendy Ann James, Edward Allion, Trinidad Margot, Ray out in West Palm Beach, Florida, Carol Guevara, Showin Kerr, Maria Celia, Slick Money Grip, John Cato, Von Drayton, Josie Richardson, the great good morning to you guys. And for those in North America, yes, you're on the same time. Good morning, Alistair Hart, Michael across in the UK, and Danraj. Good morning to you out in Central. Good morning to you. Thank you so much for hitting us up with the greetings this morning. It makes our day for sure. Yeah. All right.
So what else happened?
How did you guys' weekend go?
I got some rest.
Quite good, actually. I had some what you call it, Sahara dust issues, but besides that, it was okay.
Yeah, it's been dusty. And I have a construction site right obliquely opposite me, so it's been extra dusty for me.
Ah, boy. Somebody building a house.
They're building a branch next to your house for your convenience.
They build For the first time in 17 years, I'm getting a neighbor.
Okay.
In 17 years, in that particular area. I'm not looking forward to the dust. Whatever they do won't bother me. But I didn't think for 17 years now they've been talking, and well, finally someone is building a house. I'm happy.
Maybe it's a DP outlet. They don't want you driving too far.
Well, I actually have that to do. It's walking distance from me. It's right.
Well, it must be so oversubscribed that they say let them build another branch.
I could walk by Massey and I could get what I need, and then just walk across the road. But lately though I've been seeing a lot of cars in and out of there. I don't know if it's the dust people running from.
Really?
Really.
Well, they must be tell yourself that it's a recreational area.
Good morning to the people of Malik and my good friend Councillor Kwesi Antoine, who's the vice chairman of San Juan Laventille Regional Corporation. They had their cricket finals last evening at the Otis Whitley ground in Malik in Barataria. And boy, if you see people, it was very well. The cricket was entertaining. The lime was good. Let me just mention a few people who were there. Adrian Leon, the member of parliament for the area, was there. Councillor Kimberly Small, former Councillor Joy Benjamin, Ginny Scott from Arima Borough, Dave Maraj from Arima Borough, the new deputy mayor from Arima Borough, who I haven't seen in my areas yet. What's his name again? Ooh. What's his name? The man name going out, my sister, yes? Anyway, he knows who he is. The former councillor from Sawa, Eldon Coker, former councillor from Port of Spain, Stephen Harper. We all had a nice line yesterday, along with the man whose name carries the ground, Otis Whitley. He was a former national footballer for Trinidad and Tobago. And we had a nice little line up there yesterday, and good cricket. Congratulations to Young Guns, I think their name. They played against Sawa, and you know how to spell Sawa, right? Sahwah. The way you pronounce it, that's how the team spelled their name. Sawa United. So it was nice. I've never been to that ground before. I've never been in that area before, actually. Coming to think of it. So it was a nice evening. That's all I did really for the weekend.
Yeah.
Really.
I was saying earlier, just before you came on, that this young lady here represented us so well at Miss World. So much so that the Prime Minister and the Leader of the Opposition both congratulated her on the way she carried herself throughout the competition and how she promoted the country.
Right. Was it live on TV?
But it was streamed.
It was? Okay.
Many people watching it. Following the competition, this is what she had to say.
Everyone, this incredible woman, and thank you so much, Ms. Rowe, for giving me this opportunity and this platform to continue my advocacy and be the change that we need in the world. Sending all my love always.
And your message to the young girls of Trinidad?
Dream big, don't be afraid to take risks because they pay off.
Oh yes, they do.
I like that.
She was very, very good, all the way through. I mean, as I was telling somebody yesterday, I said, if you think of the kind of promotion she did in terms of dollars and cents, we can't pay for that.
No.
In terms of the way she represented this country so well, and the fact that she was always so poised and articulate and carried herself with such class,
Yeah.
Very, very good representative. So good for you, Ashley Abrams. On to your next accomplishments now.
Yeah. She should be arriving back this week. She's supposed to be returning to our show shortly.
Mm-hmm.
Wendell, how you getting your pick, boy?
For?
Minister of Trade and Industry, Paula Gopi-Schoon, has led a delegation to Ghana.
Oh, remember I was speaking about that. There's a trade mission going to Ghana because Tahaka Obika is who I first saw posted. And I had actually reached out to him about it, but I know that mission was going to Ghana. I think I spoke about it here too on radio. A trade mission going to Ghana. Yeah, well, I've been to Ghana on 2 occasions. When did they left already?
Yep.
Okay.
They left over the weekend.
All right, beautiful, man.
Which means if they left on Sunday or Saturday, they probably know about landing.
Yeah, they're just about getting there.
Yeah, they're probably just landing in Ghana. They would have had to go through London and connect to Ghana, which is 6 hours from London. And so, I'm sure they're going to have a good time.
Yeah. Well, they could have taken the Amsterdam route too, which is the last route I took, through Amsterdam and then on to Ghana.
Is that longer or shorter?
It's longer because the flight to Amsterdam itself is a little longer, about an hour longer than London.
But then I feel they're doing that. We have a mission in London, so.
But it's direct, and you have. I think you'll have a little more time in Amsterdam than you have in London. You have a longer layover in Amsterdam than you have in London.
Well, I think they'll go through London because we have a huge mission in London.
Yeah.
So.
Well, they could have passed through Amsterdam so and see what that's to offer. Amsterdam have a lot to offer,
Like.
Amsterdam is out of this world,
Like
I
what?
know people know that.
Like what? What is that to offer?
The downtown Amsterdam, downtown Rotterdam. It's out of this world. I mean, the district.
I'm asking you, listen to the question, what does it have to offer? You ain't telling me
I want
where
people
to
to find
offer.
out. I don't want to tell people everything. I want them to experience it.
Okay.
You've been to Amsterdam, not so?
Yes.
You've been to those districts, not so?
What districts?
The downtown districts.
I've been to Amsterdam, so I've been to several districts.
Where you can buy literally anything.
I guess.
And you don't find it amazing?
Not more than anywhere else.
No,
You can buy the same
Amsterdam
thing. You can buy the same thing on Murray Street.
No.
I hear.
No. Amsterdam has every single thing to your taste buds.
That you can't get in. That you can't get in Woodbrook.
You can't get in Woodbrook. I'm sure about that. And I should be back. I should be back in Amsterdam soon. I am actually passing through Amsterdam again soon. This time I'm going the other part of Europe. But I'll take a few hours in Amsterdam again. But it's really a free-spirited place, and nobody watches you. They don't have time with you,
What would they be watching you for?
Exactly. So, But I like Amsterdam. They could have experienced Amsterdam. I'm sure Mrs. Gopisu might not mind passing through Amsterdam.
A lot of how do I put this? A lot of fallout from the shake-up at the SSA with a lot of articles in the newspapers over the weekend. One with a particular journalist that just shoops because it wants a conjecture that it is the printing.
Yeah, well,
he's a classic for printing.
He's a master of that, eh?
Once he hears something, is a fact for him. One to that old talk and really that have no grounding in fact. He printing in a newspaper over the weekend. Anyway, but what is fact is that the police conducted what has been described as a raid on the Arima residence of a pastor who worked as an advisor for the SSA. They spent about 5.5 hours searching the house with a warrant.
What part of Arima was that?
Did they say? They said, but it's not coming to me now.
I didn't read papers over the weekend, but I saw that headline.
Yeah.
Raid on pastor, and I was wondering, what is that about,
Well, there is an unconfirmed bit of information. Is that apparently there were several members of a particular church employed at the SSA.
Okay, you mean civilians?
Civilians employed at the SSA in sensitive positions. And there are questions over their suitability and experience and qualifications to the positions.
wasn't the head of the SSA somebody connected to some church that they said they called him pastor?
Well, apparently that is what was being said, but no one can confirm that.
Mm-hmm.
No one could know. There's no confirmation of that, but the person is said to be associated with the church. I don't know that they said he was the head of the church.
Well, I guess that could be said about plenty of people that they're associated with a church.
Yeah.
Mm.
Mm-hmm. The issue is not the association with the church, The issue is the alleged employment of members of the church if they are not so to be qualified.
Right.
You understand? The issue anybody could associate with any church or religious body.
But they were employed in what capacity? Did they say?
But they didn't say. I didn't get that. Mm-hmm. I'm saying information specifically because I have no confirmation of it.
Yeah.
But that was where one of the concerns lay, by my understanding.
They also were linking the story to the death of a former person.
Yeah, there's some allegation in the newspapers over the shooting death of somebody in the East, actually.
Yeah, November last year.
And alleging that it was some hit organized by some arm of the state.
Yeah, I saw that.
You understand? Part. Which is, I thought it was a reckless article, to be very honest. Because the article proffered no evidence or proof. You understand? Just things they hear.
Yeah. Which I heard already.
You understand? So I just I said, that's where we reach now. Just hear thing and you print it.
Yeah.
But I guess it's for the authorities to disprove what the paper has printed.
Yeah, which is what some journalists do. And that particular journalist is known for doing things like that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so.
That is here you went to the market and buy 3 pounds of chicken and print it here.
Dr. Nids, Dr. Nids or Dr. Nids, you're right.
Why would you say I look uncomfortable talking about Amsterdam? I went to Amsterdam. I went to the red light district. That's what you're going to say?
That red light district.
I didn't purchase anything though. I just went
that red light district have all kind of colors.
Walked around. I went into a restaurant to have lunch, and if I tell you with whom, with Anna Roberts of all people.
Oh dear Lord! You just spoiled the whole conversation.
Yeah, I know you'd say that. It was at the trip. We went from Germany. We had took a train from Germany to Amsterdam. It took about 4 hours, 3 hours.
Oh, you came the other direction. What? So okay, all right.
And when we all agreed we'd meet back, because the train was heading back at 7 in the evening, so we just spent one day, right? And we all were supposed to meet on the platform, whatever number it was, to head back. And there was one person missing.
And it wasn't you?
It wasn't me. I got back. It wasn't me. That person came back the day after.
Okay.
Maybe they saw some trinkets they wanted to buy.
But thankfully, nobody was there videotaping them, hopefully.
Well, I don't think you're not allowed to videotape, because if you pull out your phone when you're walking on the streets and the ladies are in the booths and the windows,
they stop you.
They give you very vociferous peace signs.
That is a fact.
Okay.
You can't pull out your phone and film them.
No, they get very, very upset with you.
Yeah.
Until you stop that nonsense, and they give you the peace sign. I'm using the wrong finger here.
So I experienced that same thing in Singapore. They took objection to you.
Yeah, don't film them. Okay.
Yeah.
If you want to come and buy.
Yeah.
But I was there. We were there like about 3 in the afternoon. So they have different levels apparently. If you're in 3 in the afternoon, you're the entry level. If you want the top notch wares, you have to come like 8, 9 in the night, 10.
Yeah.
When the booths are rented by the top notch personnel.
Well, we had a strange experience. We had someone point to us, 3 of us, and say, "You, and you come."
Really?
Really? Really? I tell you, it's a wild place, but it's if you're ever out there, and I saw people there with children and so on, So
Yeah.
it's
But
not
Europe, that
restricted.
part of Europe is very liberalized.
Yeah.
See, when we went and had lunch, there was a big circular table,
Mhm.
and I said, "But what is this table so strange?"
Mm.
The table had a staircase leading up to it, and in the middle of the lunch, people came and started dancing and on the table
Yeah.
while you were having lunch, and they brought out a menu of different varieties of marijuana.
Yeah. It's a
Those
very,
who,
very liberal
those who
place.
wanted to smoke,
Yeah.
all sorts of flavored marijuana as your aperitif.
Yeah. A coffee shop is not just a coffee shop.
No, it's not. They have
Mm.
all sorts of delicacies.
Mm.
A sad report over the weekend, and I don't know if it's true because none of the major newspapers carried it, but it was all over online, and I think Loop TT carried it. And it's a very, very disturbing story.
You mean with the 11-year-old girl?
Yeah, a report of a kidnapping and assault of an 11-year-old girl being investigated by police, allegedly on Friday at 7:30 a.m. in McBean Village, Coover.
Mm.
The child told investigators, according to the report, she was in the yard of her home when she observed a group of men approaching, and one of the suspects covered her face with a heavy cloth. She was placed in a vehicle. She fell unconscious, and when she woke up, she was in a room blindfolded and chained to a bed and physically assaulted, sexually assaulted by the four suspects. Now, the story does not go on to say how she escaped or how she came to the attention of the authorities who are investigating.
Well, one part of it that I read is that she said a fifth person, I'm reading what I read, I don't know how accurate it is, or if it is, came into the room, unshackled her, took her to a back room, back door, and told her to run. So I don't know how accurate that is, but
Yeah. But
It's a very disturbing story.
it is.
yeah, because she's playing at home in her yard.
You remember the story of the also of a young girl who went with a relative to report a rape, right? And when she got back home, she was murdered along with the relative. That was just the other day.
Oh, sometime last year.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah,
sometime last year. She went to report a rape, and I think the person may have been charged and released on bail.
Mhm.
And subsequently, somebody passed and gunned down her and her uncle,
Yes, right in the
who
room.
she was living with. Mhm.
Yeah.
And you heard nothing about that in terms of an ongoing investigation. And if there was a charge, somebody should let me know. But I don't remember anybody being charged. What was also weird about this story we're talking about now, about this 11-year-old girl and this alleged assault and kidnapping, is that you have not heard anything from any family member,
No.
which is what is odd to me about it. Because they said she relayed the story to the investigators.
Yes.
And you have not heard about a mother or a father. Well, I guess they wouldn't put it in the story because they identified the mother and the father. They, by virtue, identify the child.
The child, yes.
So this may be why you haven't heard about, but you haven't even heard about an unidentified parent or guardian
Yeah.
talking about how horrible this is, which is very strange about this. So I hope we get more information on that.
Paul, but you didn't tell me that the SSA story is also making the papers again today. It says, let me read a little bit. Pastor Ian Albert Ezekiel Brown says he is a spy for the SSA. In an exclusive interview with the newspaper yesterday in Port of Spain, Brown, age 67, also confirmed that 100 police officers on Saturday raided his Arima home and his churches, the Jerusalem Bride in Malabar Arima and the Eden Restored Church in Cartel. He said he is known as the Phantom and the ghost who walks in the SSA. And he was only now breaking his silence because his cover was blown by the police. Brown said he believes the SSA will go dark because a list of righteous people will be dismissed from the agency. He claimed further that these actions are being done to protect criminality and a government official. He said Major Roger Best was sent on administrative leave because he was working on treating with crookedness in the SSA. Who is Brown? He said in 1982 he was employed at the Ministry of Works, National Secondary Roads Construction Company Limited, where he met a German named Armin Kaub, who trusted him and trained him to be a spy. There's a movie. In 1984, he pursued Bible studies at the West Indies School of Theology in St. Joseph and obtained a bachelor's degree in theology, following which he became a pastor in 1986. He opened his first church at Pinto Road, Arima, where they recovered my stolen van. He also, that's not in the article, eh? He also lectured at Caribbean Mission Bible School and was one of their vice principals. There's a movie, man.
And what? Please put the source of your information.
Oh, what?
What is the source of information? What papers?
The Express newspaper today.
Express newspapers today. Okay. We just want to make sure we are reading.
But they have a picture of Pastor Ezekiel too, you know.
So Mr. Pastor Ezekiel is saying he was employed by the SSA as a spy.
He's a spy. He says a spy. Oh Lord, somebody from the SSA just messaged me.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, she said, I'm a spy. I'm a police officer as well. 10702. That is my regimental number. Brown said his church is not a cult, and he is also an author and a bona fide bishop. Oh, Lord. All right. I've seen movies like this on Netflix. He said he is wife and 9 children live with him.
And they talk about Rishmi? Okay.
But the man said he was employed with the SSA, you know.
So was she.
But she was heading the SSA.
Exactly. Well. Oh, God.
No, listen. Yeah, I was not surprised. I have covert ways of dressing. I was leaving with one of my gears, a Rasta wig, because my neighbors do not know what I am except a pastor and a bishop. When they came, some were over the fence already, and I was reversing my vehicle to go on one of my beats. And when I saw them coming, hurling themselves over the fence, I stopped, put my hand outside the window and said, "Stop, stop." I said, "I'll come out and open the gate." When I came out, they said, "Take that off your head. Take it off." So what the neighbors never saw, they saw for the first time Pastor Brown looking like a Rasta.
So he disguised himself as he was trained to do.
Yes, he said he was going on
by
one of
the
his
German.
beats. He was going on one of his beats.
What does that mean?
For all you know, that Rasta man in your neighborhood was Pastor Brown all the time, people.
Let me tell you something, Wendell and Stephen. If it weren't so serious, it'd be laughable. This man is saying he was a part of Trinidad and Tobago's most prominent intelligence gathering agency / spy agency. You know that?
Yes.
He's also alleging, if I remember what you said correctly, that part of the reason for the shakeup is because an investigation was ongoing into a senior minister or senior government person.
Hold on. Brown confirmed that he sat in high-level national security meetings and had access to sensitive information. Asked if he had a particular squad in the SSA, Brown said 2 service providers who are also church members were assigned to him, and they were paid a stipend and contract to provide information and intelligence at his request. I want this country to know, this is his words, I want this country to know that from tomorrow, Monday, March 10th, 2024, today is the 10th?
11th.
11th. our country is going dark. The eyes that used to see brightly will not be allowed to see again where the corruption and crime is in this country. He said handpicked people will fill the 3 top posts of director and deputies. Asked if he believes he will be charged with anything, Brown said he may be charged with divulging secret information. I am not wimpy as a pastor. I'm a trained police officer and I'm different. I'm almost 70. I've lived a full life. I've written 12 books. If they want me to continue to work in the agency, I will continue to be in service to my country. Oh dear. Richard would have been better off reading the story though. Not me. I can't do the acting part.
But if it didn't involve such an intricate part of this country's national security apparatus, it would be laughable. And I'm not saying what he's saying is untrue. I'm saying that if it didn't involve this country's paramount, most significant intelligence gathering agency, it would be laughable. It's actually, if what he's saying is true, it's actually frightening.
Well, if they could prove at any point in time that he was actually in meetings at the SSA or involved in anything with the SSA, then we in deep doo-doo, you know.
Why?
Why?
The question is not that he could be involved. The question is who hired him and based on what was he hired?
You mean if he was hired?
If he was
actually hired?
If he was actually in the agency. And if what he's saying regarding the 2 other church members being on some sort of retainer or stipend, he said, working for the agency is also true. And and based on what were they hired?
Anybody have the number for Pastor Ezekiel Brown? He said his cover has been blown, so he will talk now. So if anybody has a number for Pastor Ian Albert Ezekiel Brown, please send it to us at the radio station. We would like to speak with him.
But religious people have real power in this country.
You ain't seen that?
Manning had one who used to advise him, Mr. Manning.
Yeah.
You understand?
Yeah.
And now one high up in the SSA.
This story, I mean, we know for sure Miss Pena was real. We know for sure.
He not real?
Well, we don't know. So that's why I say let's talk to him. You understand?
The Express has a much larger budget for attorneys than we do.
Why? So we can't talk to him?
But it's what he could say.
I want to see the Rasta wig too.
But you have a Rasta wig? So, DL is saying something that is, if this wasn't so serious, it would be laughable. Because now you have to ask yourself, what the hell was going on in this SSA? We know something strange was going on because the Prime Minister acted last week. That is incontrovertible that the Prime Minister said some serious issues posing a threat to national security prompted, based on information received from the TTBS, prompted the SSA, the National Security Council, to advise the cabinet to replace Major Roger Best with dispatch, with retired brigadier called back from Washington, D.C., Philip Anthony Spencer, right? And retired brigadier is now conducting an audit of the people, equipment, and processes. Processes include hiring, right? Hiring practices. You know that, right?
Yeah.
Equipment is camera and thing, right? And thing.
Yeah. Yes.
And people like the Rasta man, right?
Yeah.
About related to what is this country's premier intelligence gathering agency. That is what is frightening about, is that this could be going on in that court of agency. And what kind of surveillance or oversight, I should say, did the Ministry of National Security have over this in terms of when, because they could hire people, who in charge of the SSA could hire people, right? Because it's an agency.
I'm being told that there are civilians, as there are in police stations.
Yes, that's not my question. That's not my question. My question is not about hiring of civilians. My question is, on what basis were they hired?
Well, clearly for clerical issues and so
the
on.
Police,
Unless they use some civilians to do some of the spying for them, according to
this is what this man is saying.
Pastor Brown said he was a spy, you know. Pastor Brown said he was a spy.
Well, you know, the country, according to him, the country dark today, right?
But yeah, but he said Monday, March 10th, so I'm concerned if he cover himself there.
True. He could say Monday, March 10, 2024 do exist. So
he might cover himself there, you know. Oh God. I have too many friends all over the place now, you know. I have to be very careful.
Wow.
Joe Van Roberts, that's the name of the deputy mayor of Arima. Thanks, and they are now seeing your message. Joe Van Roberts.
This is craziness.
But that issue of that SSA story, it's not good. It's not good. And as you rightfully pointed out just now, we know something was going on there because the Prime Minister acted. And he said he had to act as a matter of national security. So we know for sure something was. What exactly was going on there? I don't know. The bird nest will have to tell us, because there's a bird nest we're going into now, you know. You ever see how birds make the nest? It's a bird nest we have entered.
It's a bird nest, you say, you know?
Yeah. One straw leads into another straw, interwoven to two other straws, and it's so we going. It's straws. It's a bag of straws. We enter a bird nest. But let's hope at the end of the day. I mean, we know the reputation of retired Major General Phillips Anthony Spencer. We know his reputation. So
but the man is alleging that the actions initiated by the Prime Minister and the National Security Council are to protect criminality and a government official.
That's what he said.
The man has made a serious allegation there. You understand?
Jesus. Oh, as I say, people always stop messaging me. I don't want to read no more. I'm tired. My head hurting me. My head hurting me. Oh. Trinidad, sweet.
My God.
Sweet, too bad.
You have to say, my God.
Happy
The man,
birthday, Valmiki Maharaj. Valmiki Maharaj from Lost Tribe. It's Lost Tribe, right? Today is his birthday. Happy birthday. And Stanley Augustus had a birthday recently. I couldn't forget to tell him happy birthday. Yeah. Belated birthday greeting, Stanley.
He said he only began to receive a stipend 5 years ago. But he wanted to receive it from.
Oh, God.
He says 70 officers searched the compound, yes?
Yes. Well, earlier in the article, he said 100, and then it went to 70. So maybe he miscounted. Rastavik was blocking. Somebody locked was blocking him counting.
He said, if other members of the church were employed by the SSA, he said, yes, I wouldn't lie to you. I tell you the truth. Yes, he, Best, did hire a few people. So I didn't know that so the Ministry of National Security has found a new way of hiring people. Going to church.
Terrible.
Wow. I think if it wasn't so serious, it'd be laughable.
Yeah, because we did ridicule and rightfully so critique the People's Partnership when they hired the telephone operator.
This was.
But now if this is true, because we don't know yet that it is true, right? But if half of this is true, and I'm being told a lot is true, right? If half of this is true,
this 100 times worse.
Oh goodness. Oh goodness. Because Rashmi didn't even last a week, right?
That is my point.
Yeah.
She didn't get to operationalize anything that we know about.
That's true. This is absolutely.
I type any question here now.
Nobody here know Pastor Ezekiel Brown. He's from Arima, Malabar. Most of our listeners are from up this end. He's probably listening right now. Dress up some other way.
So my suggested question this morning is, do you believe Pastor Ian Albert Ezekiel Brown was employed in the SSA as a spy?
Yeah, we could ask that.
Of course.
Well, let's get into our
intrigue.
We're doing headlines?
Okay.
Yeah, it is 12 minutes before the hour at 7 o'clock.
Monday, 11th March. Let's start with the Express. Pastor, I am a spy. SSA shakeup by Anna Ramdas. Pastor Ian Albert Ezekiel Brown said he was a spy for the Strategic Services Agency. In an exclusive interview with the Express yesterday in Port of Spring, Brown, 67, also confirmed that 100 police officers on Saturday raided his Arima home and his churches, the Jerusalem Bride in Malabar, Arima, and Eden Restored Church in Caratal. He said he was known as the Phantom, the ghost who walks. The ghost who walks. If it wasn't so serious, would it be laughable? Man set a light to the family feud is another article. Agency fired 2. Girl 11 abducted and gang raped. The Express is covering it now. Wow. Water racket. WASA suspends 3. Didn't we ask is it the acting CEO of WASA that last week?
Yes.
Didn't I directly ask him about a report I heard about that he said he don't know about?
Yes.
Didn't I ask him about that confusion?
Yes, he said he wasn't aware of it.
Okay, right. Well, now there is this tribute of water racket. You see the jokey?
Mm-hmm.
Mechanic shot dead. 6-year-old Jamani gets new wheelchair. Let's move now to the...
I can do the Guardian for you quickly.
Go ahead, please. Thank you.
Today, Monday, March 11th, not 10th, WASA suspends 3 workers accused of neglect and lengthy central disruption, sent home with full pay during probe. Minister Gonzalez's mom on action. All those are headlines on the front page. Lawyer killed in accident, and there's a picture of attorney Everett Davidson. That story is on page 4. There's also a picture of members of the Faith Center Church in San Fernando as they perform holy baptism in the Sea of Lady Hales Avenue, San Fernando yesterday. That baptism, the picture of that baptism is on the front page. Also in the Guardian, powerful Hindu symbols, part 2, WASA suspend 3 workers. PNM wants proof Jazz Festival was unsustainable, and that's in Tobago. The Jazz Festival has been cancelled. Cops hold off latest gang attacks in Haiti. CARICOM leaders to meet today. Music festival in a winner, I think. Rowley Kamla laud Ashe's trailblazing effort. And that's, of course, Ashe Abrahams, who represented us as Miss World. All right. All those are trending stories in today's
Let's move to the news there now. Ashe Abrahams, Miss World Caribbean, 2 continental titles separated. Holy month of Ramadan begins Monday. Virtual GSC meeting on Monday, over SSA shakeup. Hines praises Bethlehem residents for attending health fair. Cops bitten and assaulted by a woman in Faizabad. Faizabad businessman shot at. And woman judges recognized. So those are trending stories in your Express Guardian and Newsday for today, Monday, the 11th of March, 2023.
All right. Thank you so much, Paul. Of course, let me give you the results from a morning poll, which we asked you on Friday. We asked you, do you think women are treated equally in all aspects of life in Trinidad and Tobago? The results are in. And it is 53% from online. 53% said yes.
So our question this morning is based on the Express expose this morning with Pastor Ian Albert Ezekiel Brown, who said he was employed as a spy for the SSA. So our question is, do you believe that Pastor Ian Albert Ezekiel Brown was employed in the SSA as a spy? Yes or no?
Mm-hmm. Royalty forever. We could ask that in a week. It's a good question.
All right. Faria Hayatali, Mrs. R. Carol Mitchell, Ian R. Joseph, Dr. Kitts, Evans David, Shanifa Ali, good morning. Shout out to Grandy. Good morning, Grandy. Royalty Forever, Lando, DL, Guy Small, good morning. All right. Paul,
Guy Small, jump out and vote early today, boy.
Yeah. Do you believe Pastor Ian Albert Ezekiel Brown was employed in the SSA as a spy? Well, Guy Small says yes. Good morning to Sankofa. All right, 222-8255, toll free, North Americans. You guys are the same time, I guess, right now.
Did it change?
It changed yesterday.
And Richard is not here this morning because he's writing a new play right now based on this.
Mm-hmm.
Richard is a Rasta wig, you know.
I have seen Richard in a Rasta wig already, yeah? In a play.
So do you believe Pastor Ian Albert Ezekiel Brown was employed in the SSA as a spy? Yes or no?
Good morning, caller.
Good morning, gentlemen. Sandy Grandy, yes.
Thank you,
This
Grandy.
is
All the best.
mind-blowing. Mind-blowing it is.
Royalty Forever says yes. CPT Singh says yes.
And all I would say is the kind of equipment they was using, eh? Audio, you know.
Julia S. Batiste says yes. Long
Remember
Island
says
says
yes. Last week. I started with Pastor to all. You remember that?
Good morning, caller.
Hi, good morning, gentlemen.
Morning.
Who is the person? Who is people that employ these people? Who is in charge
It would be the director of the SSA.
Who are the director of the SSA? And who is that person again?
He's a pastor.
The pastor.
Yeah.
So he's entitled to employing anybody in the SSA.
Not that I know of. He was an employee himself, according to him.
Yeah.
Oh, he was an employee of himself. But who employ him?
What's your vote?
Yeah. What is your vote? Yes or no?
Yeah, I can't vote because I want to know who employ him.
No, we can't.
We can't tell you that now.
Oh, okay then. Okay. I'll think about it.
Think about it and vote. Call us back.
Yes to the poll, says DL. Lando says yes. Slick Money Grip says no. Josie Richardson says yes.
But aren't people employed with those agencies, from my knowledge, when you sign strict confidentiality agreements, even after you're no longer employed with the agency, you know?
Yeah, but I ain't say some media house can't get you to talk. You face the consequences after.
Okay, all right.
Cascade St. Anne says no. Captain Ron says yes. Captain Ron, what is going on with United Airlines? 5 incidents last week.
Who write that story in the Express?
Anna Ramdas.
Okay.
Carol Guevara says yes. Marival on the road says yes. Do you believe Pastor Ian Albert Ezekiel Brown was employed in the SSA as a spy. Wayne Joseph, no, out in Ontario, Canada. 222-8255, toll-free North Americans, 866-525-1099 on WhatsApp at 3181021.
Wayne B in Malik says no. And Ish in Malik says yes. Ish, I was up by all last night.
Gene Clark says no. Wayne B says no. Ish out in Malik says yes. All right. Do you believe Pastor Ian Albert Ezekiel Brown was employed in the SSA as a spy?
Well, yes. Let me tell you. It couldn't get messier than this. Or maybe it can.
What would tomorrow hold?
From what I hear in the background, that I should not divulge it, it's going to get worse.
Yeah, I was also told that it's going to get worse.
It's going to get much, much worse.
Beauty culture. Morning, beauty culture. No.
Well, they do all the thing when I'm not here.
All right, 2.5 minutes to take your votes. Do you believe Pastor Ian Albert Ezekiel Brown was employed in the SSA as a spy?
I don't know what it is with this name Ezekiel that it just keep coming up and all kind of thing. Who was Ezekiel in the Bible, Paul? Just check that quickly for me. See what was Ezekiel in the Bible known for? Hold on.
You is the pastor. You is the pastor. He's a prophet.
Hold on.
He was a central protagonist in the book of Ezekiel. He's supposedly a prophet of some kind.
Who was Ezekiel?
He was a priest who was among the Jewish captives carried away to Babylon by King Nebuchadnezzar. The name Ezekiel is a meaning strength of God. Or you ain't running a spy agency, you're running church.
Well, Ezekiel, when he saw God, fell and prostrated, and he hid his face.
All right.
I must see why you put on your roster wig.
Good morning, Ewan Rajpaul, and Tony Stark says no. Edwin Marshall says yes. What says you, caller?
Good morning, all the good gentlemen there. Good morning.
Good morning, L.A.
Good morning, Steve. Good morning, Wendell. Good morning.
Morning, LA. Morning, LA.
Good morning.
Steve.
What's your vote?
No to your poll.
Okay.
No. All right, LA.
Yeah, I'll call you right back.
Yeah, man. Take care.
All right. Thanks, Ellie. 4 o'clock in the morning there.
I watched a movie over the weekend, guys. I want to advise you all to watch it if you all like those type of movies. A movie called Sisu, SISU. It's on HBO. SISU. It's an amazing movie. Ewart Rajpaul says no.
Kenny in Harlem says no. All right. All right, gentlemen, let's get into our major news. Aviation Hillbab is in. Let's get into it.
This is your news bulletin from Power 102 Digital.
Officers from the Interagency Task Force searched the Arima residence of a pastor who once worked as an advisor at the Strategic Services Agency. Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley and opposition leader Kamala Persad-Bissassa congratulates TT Miss World representative. Probe continues into child allegedly abducted and raped by a group of men. The U.S. evacuates Haiti embassy staff amid gang violence, and India signs $100 billion free trade deal with 4 European nations. Details in a moment. This is news to 7 o'clock on Power 102 Digital. I'm Avril Sintel-Bab. Good morning. The Interagency Task Force executed a search warrant at the Arima residence of a pastor who once worked as an advisor at the Strategic Services Agency. TTPS officers visited the home of the pastor around 7:30 a.m. on Saturday and executed a search warrant on the premises. No one was detained during the search, which took about 5.5 hours, ending just after 1:30 p.m. According to investigators, they arrived on the compound. A man was wearing what appeared to be a Rasta wig and seemed to be about to leave the premises. However, an officer recognized the man and he was asked to remain on the premises for the search. According to reports, officers described the building as a maze, as one room led into another room and then into multiple rooms, and also indicated that they were also met by 2 women at the home. Police also searched other locations in the East Trinidad yesterday as part of their investigations into SSA operations. The Office of the Prime Minister announced a change in the leadership of the SSA in a statement on March 3, 2024. The current head of the SSA, Major Roger Bass, has been sent on administrative leave. The National Security Council recommended to the cabinet that the head of the SSA be placed immediately on leave and that new leadership and management be installed with dispatch. Former Ambassador retired Brigadier Anthony Philip Spencer, on the instructions of the Prime Minister, returned from Washington, D.C. to take up the role. Both Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley and opposition leader Kamala Persad-Bissessar have congratulated Miss Trinidad and Tobago, or Miss World Trinidad and Tobago, Ashe Abrahams, for her performance at the Miss World 2024 competition. At the prestigious event held in India recently, Abrahams won the title of Miss World Americas and the Caribbean. Dr. Rowley said via a social media update, Abrahams represented Trinidad and Tobago with class and poise. The opposition leader said Abrahams' achievement is one of the best things to happen to Trinidad and Tobago in a long while, and that TNT celebrated her and thanked her for inspiring all of us, especially the young people of the country, to be a voice, an advocate, and an example for others to follow. She said that Abrahams uplifted the nation and brought immense national pride at a critical and difficult time in our nation's history. On Sunday, a trade mission made up of private and public sector companies left Trinidad and Tobago for Ghana. The Trinidad and Tobago Manufacturers Association says Ghana was chosen as a market for opportunity to the business community following His Royal Majesty Otumfo Se Tutu II, King of the Ashanti Kingdom of Ghana, and his delegation's visit to Trinidad and Tobago in August 2023, where several high-level meetings took place between the CEOs of both the Ghana Investment Promotion Center, Ghana Export Promotion Authority, and the TTMA. The trade mission is being led by Minister of Trade and Industry, Paula Gopi-Schoon. She says Trinidad and Tobago has maintained a favorable trade balance with Ghana, averaging $15.2 million in exports and $0.6 million in imports annually. Trinidad and Tobago's trade balance with Ghana increased by 24.7%, moving from a surplus of $23.6 million in 2018 to a surplus of $29.5 million in 2022. In crime news, a report of a kidnapping and assault of an 11-year-old girl is being investigated by the police. The incident was reported around 7:30 a.m. on Friday in Macbean Village, Couva. The child told investigators she was in the yard of her home when she observed a group of men approaching her. One of the suspects allegedly covered the victim's face with a heavy cloth, while the others placed her in a vehicle that was parked nearby. The victim then fell unconscious and woke up sometime after in a room, blindfolded and chained to a bed. The young girl was then physically and sexually assaulted by 4 suspects. After some time, a 5th individual entered the room and informed the victim that he was there to help. She was unchained, and the 5th individual allowed the victim to dress. He then took her to a back door and instructed her to run. The victim then ran off in an unknown direction and was found around 8:20 a.m. wandering along Exchange Estate Road, Couva, by a bus driver who took her to the Couva police station. The child gave a statement and was taken for medical treatment. You are listening to news on Power 102 Digital to 7 o'clock. The United States says it has airlifted non-essential embassy staff from Haiti as the country spirals further into gang violence. The Americans have also boosted security at their mission in the capital, Port-au-Prince. It follows attacks by gangs on the airport, police stations, and prisons this week. They are pushing for Haitian Prime Minister Ariel Henry's removal. A 3-day state of emergency has been extended by a month. It added that the embassy will remain open. India has signed a free trade agreement with a group of 4 European countries that are not members of the European Union. The deal with the European Free Trade Association will see investments in India of $100 billion, the country's trade minister says. The EFTA is made up of Norway, Switzerland, Iceland, and Liechtenstein. The announcement comes as the UK and India have been holding negotiations over an FTA for the last 2 years. Well, finally, here is weather news for the period today till midnight. Trinidad and Tobago, predominantly sunny and breezy at times, despite the brief isolated shower. Nighttime will be mostly fair. You can expect a temperature high of 33 degrees Celsius at Piarco International Airport and 32 degrees Celsius at Crown Point in Tobago. Currently, it is 25 degrees Celsius at both localities. Recapping the headlines to 7 o'clock. Officers searched the Arima residence of a pastor who once worked as an advisor at the Strategic Services Agency. Prime Minister and opposition leader congratulate TT Miss World TNT Ashe Abrahams. Probe continues into child allegedly abducted and raped by a group of men. The U.S. evacuates Haiti embassy staff amid gang violence. And India signs a $100 billion free trade deal with 4 European nations. I'm Afril Sintilbab. That was news to 7 o'clock on Power 102 Digital. Look out for more news in detail at 12 o'clock today and an update at 8 this morning. For more details, log on to power102fm.com.
Up to date and credible. Power 102 Digital.
All right. Thank you so much, Avril, for our major news. Of course, you can join her again come 8 o'clock for our news brief. Quickly, traffic-wise, yeah, it's heavy. Got an accident by Cipriani College. So that's a bit slowing up some issues there. Eastern Main Road is not that bad. Maraval, Diego Martin, Charlieville towards the interchange. Slow going a bit through Chase Village. That's it. San Fernando, lighter than usual, except for Garlock on the connector road. All right. So that's a quick traffic update for you. Hope it helped you out in one way or the other. Let's see. Kenny out in Harlem says, I said no. Cheryl Johnson says no. Good morning, Trinity in Boston. Okay. Finback Collins, just what, yes or no? Okay. All right. So, gentlemen.
Yeah, I'll put on my camera just a bit. So the only other vote I needed to record was Cheryl Johnson. You have anything else on WhatsApp?
You got Kenny in Harlem?
Yes, I got that before we went off for news.
Okay. All right. So that's it.
All right. So our question this morning, do you believe Pastor Ian Albert Ezekiel Brown was employed in the SSA as a spy? We had 14 people saying yes, 11 said no. 14 said yes, 11 said no. And Finbar Collins, you might be right, but that is even crazier. That he was engaged to do tasks for the SSA. What was the result of those tasks? Did anybody ever, a Rastaman ever lock all you up? It was a pastor, I don't know if all you know that. Right?
Well, the members of the SSA don't lock up anybody, sir.
You know what I mean?
No, I don't know what you said.
Clearly, I'm trying to be sarcastic.
I know what you said.
You understand?
They gather intelligence. They don't
Yeah.
lock up anybody.
Yeah.
But I know if my knowledge of how the public service operates, if he was employed,
They would have a record.
they would have a record because somebody would have to pay him.
Mm-hmm.
Checks or transfers to bank accounts would have been through the Ministry of National Security and the PS in that ministry. You understand?
Yeah.
Because I don't know that the SSA operates financially independently of the ministry.
No, they don't.
Exactly.
The difference in this, this is unconfirmed by me and by anybody else thus far, is that with this and the Rishmi, I know that we want to compare it with the Rishmi, and we have been, but the difference with this is that there is no as yet proven link to any government official saying, hey, employ him. You understand? Put him there. Because how he got there, if he got there and how he got there, will now be the basis of another investigation. Which is why, Paul, and if you could pull it up for me, the mandate that was given to Brigadier and retired Major General Anthony Philip Spencer had something to do with personnel and auditing of personnel, not so?
Let's pull it up. I said earlier, he is to conduct an immediate audit of personnel, equipment, and processes at the SSA.
Right. So clearly there is a glimmer of truth in what has happened, what is before us now this morning. You understand?
Now, there is concern about what has been happening in terms of people who are employed at the SSA, equipment that may have been bought at the SSA, and the processes used to hire people and or buy equipment.
Yeah.
And for what purposes?
Yeah.
Okay? The difference between this and Reshmi is what you said is correct. But to me, if this turns out to be true, it's much worse.
Well, in terms of what actually happened at the end of the day.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
True.
Okay? Much worse.
True. Because these people were there for years. If we have to believe what they're saying.
For years.
For years.
And if they were inappropriately hired, and they were hired without the requisite experience and or qualifications, it goes straight along the line as Rishmi, and they could have done damage.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
And this imbroglio is doing damage to the reputation of the SSA.
Yes.
So this is much worse.
Yes. Yes,
and that's the issue here.
Yeah, I have no choice but to agree with you.
Why would you want to resist agreeing with me?
Because I can sometimes. And because I do sometimes. You know?
It's just so unseemly. And as I said before, the Prime Minister, but the present government is who installed Major Best in the position. Not so?
3 years ago, I think.
No, it could be more than that, man.
Or was it renewed 3 years ago?
It was renewed 3 years ago, I think it is. Okay? So and now Major Best has been sent on administrative leave and someone installed to do an audit of what he was overseeing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the Prime Minister said on record that it was based on information brought by the TTPS to the National Security Council.
But people have been whispering over a period of time, you know. But again, these agencies, they are so insulated that people are afraid to speak. And Paul, I want to tell you this. I want to go on record this morning as telling you this, right? Remember, we had a difference of opinion on the PSB, Professional Standards Bureau. Remember, we had a difference of opinion.
No, we have.
Right, but I'm telling you, sir, that I am now in total agreement with you.
What changed your mind?
I will have to see you and tell you that.
Okay.
I
know why I have the position. I know why I took the position I took, because I must have the information you now get long time.
Oh my, no. I'm sorry, the Professional Standards Bureau, they can all pack up like the SSA and go home too.
My principle of it, in addition to what I know, is that himself connected to himself cannot investigate himself.
True.
Okay?
True.
People who start in batch 30, 40 years ago, investigating who is who, godfather, child godfather, that kind of thing. Nah, man. It needs to be an independent body, not out of the police service. I would never agree with that.
Yeah.
There's an inherent conflict there.
Yes. And you know why? You know what? At one point in time, I have to tell you, at one point in time, I was sufficiently satisfied that they were doing a good job. But I can't help but agree now because of that conflict, inherent conflict. We Satan.
222 talk.
Yes, we're taking your calls, people.
Yeah, we supposed to have Professor Aura on. So
this is so disturbing, on so many levels because of the implications for what may have been happening by what may be rogue elements in this organization.
Yeah.
And the pastor made us that, I'll repeat it again. His statement is that they were investigating criminality, and is it a government official is the word he used?
He said government official. That could mean anything, though, in the context.
It could mean anything. It could mean a low-level government official. It could mean a high-level government official. I'm trying to find it. It is as disturbing as it comes.
Yep.
He said he was a spy and provided intelligence to the former sort. I was contracted by the National Security Ministry for a project in Macquarie, but this man is a ranker. He was also made an SRP, used a rental car paid for by National Security to do spy work. He says on May 25th, 2023, he came on the SSA payroll as a service provider. 10702 is his regimental number.
I wonder if former Commissioner Griffith could shed any light on these things.
Did I tell you I have an appointment just now?
You're going to speak
He
with
said
him?
these actions are being done to protect criminality and a government official. That could mean anything, as you said.
Right.
I know his face, though.
Yeah.
Why his face
Yeah, he
familiar?
looked like one of the Smurfs, huh?
I am not seeing that.
No, not one of the Smurfs. Was the man who was the Smurfs' arch enemy now? What's his name? Azrael? Is Azrael?
I don't watch those things.
no clue.
Steve, what's the
No
name of the man who does always be running down the Smurfs? Not Azrael?
He said the agency. He said 2 SSA employees were fired last year after they voiced concerns about Pastor Ian Albert Ezekiel Brown.
Gargamel. That's his name.
You understand? He said two employees raised concerns and were fired by the SSA, which means somebody clearly was protecting them. If that is true. This is really bad.
We need to speak with Pastor Brown, because it's not just Pastor Brown. I think there were other members of his family also allegedly employed with the SSA. There were some other names of Browns, not so?
I don't know. Let's welcome our guest.
Yeah. Professor Aura, good morning. It's been a long, long time.
You're
You're
muted.
silent.
You're muted, Professor. Still muted.
Very
Right,
good
there you
morning.
go.
Good
Good morning, Professor. How are you? It's been a while.
I'm very good, thank you. How are you all?
Pretty
Not
good. Good morning,
bless.
Professor. How is if you are in the UK? How is the UK?
I'm not actually. I'm in Trinidad at the moment.
Okay,
so
we are some warm weather then.
I'm in St. Anne's at the moment. So, but yeah, UK.
Is that the institution or the area?
That's the area.
At least you can take a joke.
We don't know. I just have to clarify. Excuse me. Thank you for joining us this morning. Happy New Year, happy Carnival, happy everything. We haven't seen you for a while.
Same to you.
I want to talk a bit about that. We had a conversation last week. We started to see, of course, some new strains of the coronavirus, and also, is it RV something, a new virus that had been affecting children and adults, SRVS or something like that.
Oh, respiratory syncytial virus, I think you're talking about, yeah.
And other respiratory issues, including some exacerbated by the Saharan dust, which I have been terribly affected. And the moves in the UK to investigate some of what people claim are adverse effects of some of the vaccines that people would have taken during the height of the COVID-19 pandemic. And what your thoughts were on that in particular to start our conversation. And a commission, I think, was started, but it may have been halted now, through the UK Parliament to investigate the claims by some people of the adverse effects of the vaccines, and what information you may have on that and what your thoughts were on that.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think from the first thing you were talking about, I mean, we've had these respiratory viruses circulating, like respiratory syncytial disease virus and other coronaviruses. Those kind of viruses have been circulating for a long time, and they are, and of course the flu viruses, and every year they cause problems, and they affect different ages of people. Some affecting children, like respiratory syncytial virus, and influenza infects younger people. And of course, we know that coronavirus, the latest one, affects more older people. So these are viruses we're living with, what you call sort of almost endemic. So they come back every year, usually in a seasonal way. So we usually have them at a certain time of year because it follows the seasons from the northern hemisphere when there's winter. And I think they come down, and that's why we have them at this time of year, usually from around November to around April, May. So we're in the seasons for them now. And we have to be wary of them because even, flu virus, as we know in Trinidad, flu virus kills people every year. We now have the coronavirus in our sort of suite of viruses circulating. Like I remember talking many years ago to you guys about the coronavirus and what's most likely to happen to it. And it has become now an endemic virus, which is present. I've had it 3 times. I expect many of your listeners have had it a few times. Many of them would have it and they won't know it. It's still causing problems in vulnerable and older people. So it's still very something that we need to be very careful of. Certain people with underlying health conditions still need to be careful, but other people are going to just get it. They're going to get relatively mild symptoms, like I did a few weeks ago, and they're going to get through it. So
So is it that these new strains or this new strain of the coronavirus is less virulent because less people are dying?
Yes. So it's happened exactly again what we predict and what we predicted. They don't always do what's predicted, but this has happened actually what's predicted. It's become, this virus has changed to become more transmissible and less virulent. So less people are dying, and I'm still say that people are vulnerable to, vulnerable people could die from it, but less people are dying, but it's become more transmissible. So more people are getting it. That's why it spreads like wildfire, when you have everybody, in winter situations when all people together. So, yeah.
Professor, have they officially declared the end of the pandemic?
Yeah,
Has that officially been declared?
Yeah, well, World Health Organization have declared that it's no longer, a pandemic. They declared, you remember a few years back, that it was a global concern, a virus, a global concern, and that enables them to put in lots more funding to look into it. So that has stopped now, although it's still with us. It's stopped.
Is it that they are still recommending that you be vaccinated against the virus? Because I don't know if you are aware of this story that was trending, where one man got over 200 vaccines in a 200-year period. 200 COVID vaccines he took.
200 COVID vaccines.
217 to be exact.
Yeah.
He got 217 different COVID vaccines.
Yes.
Wow.
Over a 2-year period.
Right, that's a little bit excessive, I think. Yeah. I think about vaccination is there's been a lot learnt about vaccination of COVID, and you're always weighing up. All vaccines are going to have a small amount of side effects. That's the case with all vaccines, and you're weighing up what you're going to, the benefits you're going to get from the vaccines, and if there are a very small amount of side effects. So you're looking very carefully what age groups, what people, what types of side effects they are, and then you're making a decision about whether to recommend use of the vaccine. And still clearly, in my opinion, in vulnerable older people and people with underlying health conditions, there is a clear need, a benefit from them having vaccinations. That when we've looked at the vaccine and the side effects and the possible side effects in younger people, especially in children, they're still very, despite, reports we hear, still very, very minor side effects. But because younger people we've known for a long time really aren't affected very badly by COVID. Yes, they can transmit it to their grannies and their grandpas and their people with diabetes and the family who can be affected, which is a big thing. And that's why we got vaccinated in the past, but themselves getting clinical signs, they don't get severe clinical signs, and they very, very, very rarely die. So the whole situation about vaccination in younger people is moves towards the other side, and you think, well, there are very minor side effects. We have seen a few minor side effects of things like myocarditis, which affects the heart muscle, very, very minor, but because they don't get the disease and they don't suffer from it. A lot of countries are now not recommending younger people to get vaccinated, but they are still, and clearly the evidence is there for older people and vulnerable people to get vaccinated.
But and vaccines are also very difficult to get because they're no longer very lucrative for pharmaceutical companies to make vaccines en masse anymore, because people aren't, one, testing a lot in countries, and two, aren't being vaccinated.
Exactly. And I know in the UK, I was there actually for some of the winter last year and earlier this year, and you couldn't get a vaccine. I mean, they were giving it to older people, over 65s and vulnerable people, but I'm now reaching the grand age of 60, and I was thinking I'd get a vaccine if I could, but I couldn't get it. You can't get it. Even if you want it, you can't even buy it at the moment. I think that'll change. I think that will change. There will be I'm surprised, to be honest with you. The vaccines aren't more available. And I think these guys that were producing the mRNA vaccines, the likes of Moderna and Pfizer, those vaccines they're working very hard to get vaccines that are against influenza and COVID. So you can get the two in the one vaccine. And that would be really good if every year, like when we get the influenza virus, or not all of us, but I get the influenza virus, and I would recommend people to get the influenza virus. I get it every year. To have in the influenza virus also the COVID-19 with the latest representative of the latest strain that's circulating. So you have just one vaccine and it's got both in it. That's what's going to happen.
Pharmaceutical companies aren't going to invest in anything. Excuse my feeling, my sentiment toward them, that is not making money for them. They have no big donations from the World Health Organization or the big countries in the world, as they got during the pandemic, and they still charge countries one set of money for it. So I have no respect for a lot of those pharmaceutical companies to do anything that's in the interest of the population, just for humanitarian cases.
Absolutely.
Is it how are countries now determining how prevalent COVID-19 is, because nobody's going for testing. I got the flu a couple of weeks ago. I didn't go for any testing. It was already bad flu. People just tell us, well, it's the flu, it will pass. So how are countries actually determining how prevalent it is now?
Yeah, well, they're not. Then, to be honest with you, they're not really, as far as I can see. I mean, people are getting COVID, as you say, like yourself, like me, and we're not reporting it to anybody. We're just, some of us might have a test, that we had left over from the outbreak, like I did and my wife did, and we both tested ourselves and we stayed at home. Most countries are. There are still some universities like who are still sending out test kits and trying to get some idea of what's going on. But the governments, I'm afraid, they're not doing anything really. To look for it. And the problem is, of course, that results in that we're not really understanding, or we're not quick enough sometimes to look and see how the virus might be changing, because we have to be right on it. Still, I know it's not surprised us so much but it did surprise us. Remember that big jump to Omicron? That was a big surprise. And that kind of thing could still happen again. We think Omicron appeared because it was in an immunocompromised, maybe HIV patient in South Africa, and it jumped to something very different. And that could still happen because the virus has the ability to do that. So we have to keep on it. We have to keep understanding exactly at what stage in the evolutionary process this virus is. So the answer to your question is we don't really know because people aren't, the countries aren't checking.
Professor, are we still therefore without knowledge as to where this thing started and how?
There's still sort of a grumbling type of a debate going on, but from the people, if you look carefully at all the data and you look at all the sequencing of the virus and all the evidence, that it really does point towards, well, what we thought originally was it came from a bat. It came from a bat. We found lots of other similar viruses in bats in the area. It's extremely unlikely that it was actually manufactured. This virus was not manufactured. We can tell by the nature of the virus and looking at it and how it's produced that nobody's gone into a lab and made this virus. So it's come from a bat. We still don't actually know 100% what vertebrate then, what species it then came through. It probably came from a bat through either a civet cat or a civet dog, somewhat a wild dog, and then that cat or that dog was then butchered in still we think that probably that wet market in China, where the initial outbreaks were found. And it was that passed it on to humans. It could have gone into the lab in China from a bat that was sampled in a surveillance program, and then grown up in that lab in China, and then escaped from that lab. But it was an original bat virus. We know that it wasn't manufactured.
Oh. Is it normal that what we're seeing now, because I never heard about it, we have COVID-19, several variants floating around. We have this RSV that seems quite acute among children and elderly people in some cases. And we also have the common flu all at the same time. Is this normal, or is this an odd occurrence?
No, it's normal. I say normal. Obviously, since 2020 or 2019, COVID-19 has entered the picture, but there are other coronaviruses also in that picture as well. All those types of viruses that we get the common cold, and other things. There's lots of different types of viruses in the picture as well, and they're all respiratory viruses, all the ones you've talked about. So they all come out, especially in the northern hemisphere, they're spread so much easier when people are sitting in their cold rooms and in close proximity to each other. And so that's why we're seeing them all together. Every year there is surveillance done by the Pan American Health Organization all around the world, and you see the rise of all these different respiratory viruses. So yeah, it's not normal. Some years one produces more problems than others, because in the influenza viruses you're talking about, there's a little suite of viruses that come back each year. There's usually around 4, and they're targeted in the vaccine. And sometimes one of those causes more problems in certain countries or certain areas than others. And so I know that from the surveillance that's carried out around the world.
Mm-hmm. What's the global death count thus far, Professor? And is it how I should put it? Does it differ much from the global death count of any other thing that may have caused death and mayhem in the world?
Yeah, well, I mean, the global death count from these kind of viruses is a lot less. These type of respiratory viruses all put together, apart from, during the pandemic and things like that, than some of the other pathogens, like some of the pathogens that cause diarrhea in kids, especially across the developing world in Africa. Malaria, for example, causes many more deaths, especially in kids around the world. So when you look at the amount, the death toll, there are other pathogens and other viruses that cause more deaths. I mean, diarrheal deaths is a major problem across the developing world. Malaria is a major problem across the developing world. So it's something we have to live with every year. These respiratory viruses come back. And we do have the opportunity to vaccinate ourselves against flu every year. I get the flu vaccine every year. I haven't had flu for a long time. I remember getting it many years ago, and it's horrible if you do get it. So we are getting there. And these mRNA vaccines as well, when they come through, and they're still working on them, are going to be hopefully a game changer when it comes to producing vaccines rapidly. For emerging pathogens.
Professor, we have also heard rumors, conspiracy theories over a period of time of people who have suddenly died since the onset of this COVID, and connecting it with them taking the vaccine, that they just suddenly got some sort of illness and died. You've heard I'm sure you've heard those conspiracy theories.
Yeah.
How would you respond to them?
Well, I mean, it's difficult because, the trouble is that all these kind of deaths, when people are dying all the time, I'm afraid, and it's sudden deaths. And so when you've had the vaccine recently, you're going to think, oh, was that something to do with the vaccine? But this kind of thing is happening all the time. So I'd like to say that in the majority of countries, not in all the countries, there are very detailed investigations that go on. To look and see the cause of death. And often there is something found that is not, and it's never well, I'd say never, but it's not the vaccine. It's something else that is happening. People are dying, I'm afraid, of sometimes of unknown causes, but usually of known causes when it's investigated carefully. But I can understand why, if you got the vaccine and then you went down with this illness 3 or 4 days later and you died, you would family would think, and you wouldn't think because you wouldn't be there, but you'd think, was it something to do with the vaccine? But I would say that these vaccines are have been proved to be exceptionally good and exceptionally safe, and they have saved an enormous amount of lives over the pandemic.
Mm-hmm. All right. Are you willing to take calls, Steve? Can we open the lines for Professor Ora this morning?
Yep, we can. 222-8255, toll free, 866-525-1099. We'll take some of your calls.
Yeah. Any other concerns that you want to raise with us, Professor, whilst we hold on for calls?
I don't like to bring gloom to the show, because there's a lot of positive things, like I was talking about the mRNA vaccines, and some good things have come out of the pandemic. But I do feel that we do have to still be very careful about checking to see what pathogens are emerging. And there is one at the moment which is spreading around the world, which is like flu. It's an influenza vaccine, but it's an avian flu. And I think some of your listeners might have seen this virus spreading and causing disease in lots and lots of different species. In fact, a couple of weeks ago, it got to the Antarctic for the first time, affecting Antarctic penguins. And when you read about what this virus is doing to many mammalian species, bird species, it's really, really worrying because it spreads very dramatically and it kills a lot of these animals. From a Caribbean perspective, we have to be very careful about this because it's spread a few years ago to the Americas. It's now spread down to the South America and, as I say, to the Antarctic through Argentina. And that's something we do need to keep a very, very close eye on. It affects predominantly poultry and predominantly turkeys and chickens, and causes very, very high levels of death in those birds. And we have it in a lot of places around the world. It's spread by wild birds, usually in their feces. And they stop off at countries like Trinidad and Tobago when they're going down to their winter nesting sites or back up to the US. So it's very important we keep a very close eye on that virus, both from a global perspective, where we're desperately trying to produce vaccines and control measures across the world, but also we need to keep a close eye on it ourselves in Trinidad and Tobago, because it will affect our poultry industry very dramatically if we get it.
Yeah. We do have a call, Professor. Good morning.
Good morning, Steve Carr, Wendell.
Morning.
Morning, Mr. Patrick.
All right, morning. Last week, a friend of mine was feeling sick. So when I went and I find out how she going and which is, they say how she have COVID. I said, what? You see, so a lot of people believe they don't have COVID going around still. It's still a COVID. But no, I want to answer a question. Last week, we had this question on the radio. There was a doctor, and he was talking about herd immunity, right? He said we make vaccine, which we really wasn't supposed to make no vaccine. We could get herd immunity. Could you explain that to me, sir?
Can you just? I got most of the question. Can you just explain?
Mr. Patrick, just repeat it louder.
Yeah, he said that we don't want to use no vaccine and things, but we could get something called herd immunity.
What immunity?
You're saying a doctor said that the vaccine was not necessary, that we could have depended on herd immunity.
Right. Okay.
Yes.
Good question. Yeah. Good question. So that would happen if enough of us had the virus. Like we are talking about, 80-90% of the population had it. But the key is also the virus gives us long-term protection when we get the virus, and that's not happening. That's the problem. Is some viruses don't give long-term protection, and we all know we've got it multiple times. So, and with the vaccine, we don't get protection for long periods of time, so it wanes. So the problem is, after a certain period of time, like 6 months or something like that, we don't know exactly, but around that time, we can get the COVID again. So the populations aren't getting herd immunity, because herd immunity relies on longevity, a long-term infection immunity appearing. So sadly, every year, like with flu, we were going to need to get get the virus. We might well get the virus, or we get a vaccine for it, just to top up our immunity, because it won't just die out because it doesn't give long-term immunity.
But his assertion also, the doctor, we overreacted because the number of people who were dying, more people were dying from the flu, and the world overreacted. But he has some crazy conspiracy theories also. But to my memory, and it's not so far in the past, when you had hospitals being overloaded, or in Italy, in Spain, in the US, in New York in particular, and Trinidad and Tobago around the world, hospitals were being overloaded. And that was a clear sign that something different had to be done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And this virus has changed luckily a lot since those early days. We had a naive population, yeah, but it was really, really serious in especially older people with underlying health conditions. And as we know from Italy, you talked about Italy and the hospitals, it was killing lots and lots of older people. The good news is this virus has changed a lot. It's adapted a lot. As I've said to you many times before, or when you were interviewing me, a virus doesn't want to kill a host. So a virus relies on living cells to replicate. If we die, if a host dies, if the cells die, the virus stops replicating. So a virus wants us to survive, but it wants to be able to transmit as fast as possible. So this virus is doing exactly what we'd expect it to as it evolves. It's not killing the host, it's becoming less virulent, but it's able to transmit from person to person much more easily. And the good news is it's not causing anything like the amount of serious conditions and death that it was. However, people with underlying health conditions and older people are still dying of it, but not in anything like the numbers that we saw, as you say, back in Italy, back in around the world in 2020.
But do you think, I'm looking at the world, and there were so many conversations about what we will learn as a species after COVID-19 and how our lives will change after this pandemic.
Nothing.
Not much has changed. We're going right back to where we were before. Or am I crazy?
No, I mean we don't learn. We don't learn from these things enough. There's a lot of things that we need to learn. And there's a lot of funds now being put into pandemic response. There's a lot of people going out looking for viruses in different species of animals to try to see what's present. But what we really need to do is underline. We need to make sure our health systems are more resilient, so we're able to respond to these kind of pandemic events, which are going to happen in the future. So when this happens, we can be there. We can rapidly diagnose what we're dealing with. We can work with vaccine companies, work with people. You said earlier, people with a social conscience who can have the facilities to be able to rapidly produce vaccines, so they can be given out straight, within 100 days or something like that, very, very quickly. And there are funds, and there are countries, there are philanthropic agencies giving a lot of money towards developing those kind of more rapid vaccination facilities, but
simple things like what we realized: washing hands reduced the prevalence of the normal flu during the pandemic because people were washing hands regularly, and all that has just gone by the wayside.
I know, and washing hands is fantastic. Washing hands is fantastic for stopping so many viruses. Especially, they have this little coat on their surface, a little envelope, which is very susceptible to soap. So many viruses that cause diarrhea, that cause colds, that cause respiratory viruses. We can get rid of them just by washing our hands regularly.
Do you think the agencies like the World Health Organization, which many people think kind of dropped the ball in some ways, in some people's estimations, will have better monitoring of areas that we see spurts of infections taking place faster and respond faster than they did to Wuhan, given what we went through?
I would hope so. There's a lot of what people do is a lot of scientists now use this thing called modeling. I don't know whether you've heard of that, where you put a lot of data into, and so you can work out exactly where the danger areas are for the emergence of viruses. It might be because of climate. You put climate variables in there. You put where people are, how vulnerable the people are, what animals, what wildlife, all those kind of things. What's the sort of forested areas and things like that. You put all that information in, and you get out quite accurate information about where are the danger areas, where are the hot spots for this, and then you can focus your research and you can target those areas which hopefully will be accurate. So we'll be able to understand a lot more about where the likely next pandemic pathogen is going to come from, what species, and so then it's all a matter of them being able to having those resilient, those systems, those rapid detection systems in place to be able to respond. And that's the difficult thing, because often these pathogens are actually they're actually sitting around in forests, in wildlife areas, very hidden, and we don't. They've been circulating in many cases between wildlife who are resistant for many years. But it's humans going into those areas, infiltrating those areas where those wildlife are, that's enabling these pathogens to come out. And we're going to continue to do that, I'm afraid. Humans, are going to continue cutting down trees, and which we shouldn't, but are moving into those areas. So we come into close proximity with those pathogens, and out they come. And we've seen time after time with Ebola, with coronavirus, this happening.
Yeah. All right, we do have a couple of calls coming in. Good morning, caller.
Good morning, Jeff. And good morning, Professor. Good morning. Again. 2 questions. I was at a conference this weekend, a medical conference, and I heard mention about this new virus that's out there, that's affecting the poultry industry. I heard you mention it a few minutes ago.
Yeah.
2 questions. What is the name of it? Because I need to do some research on it myself. And secondly, do we have a solution for it as yet? Have we been able to identify how we can link it? Because one can only imagine if this becomes rampant and affects our poultry industry, with particular reference to chickens, how we eat chickens in the world, that we see a major increase in price, which will affect everyone.
Yeah.
So I'm just curious to know where we are in it. And if you can also share the name, so I'll have one of my research assistants do some work on it for me today.
Yes.
Thank you.
That's a great question. So this virus that we were talking about is what we call a high pathogenic avian influenza virus. It's a particular type of the avian influenza virus. There are many different types of avian influenza virus, but this is a particular type that is very highly pathogenic, as you say, in poultry and in turkeys especially. And it's spreading in an unprecedented way around the world. I mean, and it has the ability to jump into other mammals as well, as we've seen in the Antarctic recently, but it also affects things, all sorts of bird species, all sorts of wild bird species. So over the years, we don't usually vaccinate against these high pathogenic avian strains because you usually just do what we call slaughter policies, where if the virus gets in, you slaughter the animals, you slaughter the poultry. But obviously, that's bad for the farmer, but that in a way stops the spread. But that's not working. That's not working for this virus. So we have to change the way we think. And what's happening now is a lot of the world organizations around Food and Agriculture, FAO, World Organization for Animal Health, they're all now starting to think very carefully about vaccinating against this particular pathogenic strain of avian influenza.
Does it have a name, Professor?
Yeah, H5N1 it is.
H5N1.
H5N1. It's a type of H5N1.
Okay.
And we are actually working, and some countries like France are vaccinating now against this H5N1. And I think you'll see the world, more countries around the world vaccinating. The vaccine's not perfect, but it's really the only way, I think, that we are going to stop this particular H5N1 virus continuing to spread around the world. And of course, there's a risk in humans as well. At the moment, only very few human cases of this particular virus, people in very close proximity to chickens with H5N1. It's jumped across, but then it doesn't pass from human to human at the moment. But these particular viruses, these avian influenza viruses, have, again, like coronaviruses, but even worse, they have the ability to change. And that's the big worry, that the virus is going to change and become able to pass from human to human. So we have to keep a very, very close eye on it.
Can you talk a bit about the RSV a bit more? that new RSV?
Yeah, I mean, this is about the respiratory. I mean, I'm not an expert in the RSV, but it's a virus that's been around for a very, very long time, and it comes back every year. It causes severe disease. Again, it does affect younger people as well, but it affects all age groups. It's a particular type of virus in that suite of respiratory viruses that we get in Trinidad and around the world, coming back every year, and it's again very, very serious. We don't vaccinate against it, as far as I'm aware. But I'm not a big expert on it. You'd have to best to speak to one of the human. Remember I'm a vet, you see, so it's not like a zoonotic virus, so it doesn't pass from animals to humans like influenza virus, like coronaviruses. So it's more of a human virus. But it's there and it's causing problems every year, and it's something.
And if someone has had COVID, and I'm presuming by now we all have been exposed to COVID in one way, either through a vaccine or naturally outside, what would be red flags that people should get themselves checked out more for? There's some people who will recover and be fine, but there's some people who have lasting symptoms, like their heart has been damaged or they have continued respiratory issues.
Yeah, I'm afraid some people, and we don't really understand what predisposes you to being affected by this sort of long COVID, this longer type condition, which causes, as you say, all sorts of different issues. Very, very high levels of fatigue, but also some damage to some of the organs. And in the majority of people with long COVID, it seems that they do still get over it, but it takes, can take over, a year in some cases or more. And some people are still suffering with it now. And we don't really understand whether it's the nature of the virus itself that's caused that, or a stimulation of the immune response. So sometimes the virus indirectly, through stimulation of the immune response and all those things that are stimulated in the immune response, that causes these long-term effects. And there's a lot more research that needs to be done and is still being done around the world on what we call the pathogenesis, what's causing long COVID, because you have to understand the causes in order to be able to put the correct treatments in. But yeah, people should, if they continue to feel symptoms, fatigue or especially, or they just don't get right. With COVID, you should, after around a couple of weeks, you should feel okay again. I mean, you should be back to normal. If you're not back to normal after that period of time, and you're worried about the fact that you're not able to get back to work or something, or you're not feeling well, you should definitely go and see your doctor. I'm not sure that the doctor will be able to do an enormous amount, but because long COVID is not very understood. But at least it may be something else that needs to be investigated that they can do something about. And they can support you with long COVID. There's a lot of research on how best to support people with it.
All right, Professor. Thank you so much.
No problem.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot. Always a pleasure talking to you.
All right. Thanks, guys.
It's been a while.
It's always refreshing and enlightening speaking with you.
All right. Thanks very much. Have a great day.
All right, Professor Ora. Thank
because
you.
he sounds rational and clear thinking.
But yeah, he
As opposed to others.
Yeah, and
with the conspiracy theories and the madness.
He's clearly a very analytical man too, because he analyzes
science-based. He's talking about China and the world economy and all kind of thing and craziness. And I only take it because I had to work. Y'all have a great day, be safe. Look out for the Rasta man coming in your yard.
Oh, jeez.
Watch out for the Rasta. Well, anyway. Folks, have a wonderful day. Remember to let go and let God. Richard will be on tomorrow, God willing.
Yep. Yeah. You're not as young as you think.